Do you want to get shredded in the fastest way possible? Stay tuned. You are not going to want to miss this. So getting shredded in the shortest amount of time and the fastest way. I am going to share with you my tips on how I dropped 20 to 25 pounds in about 4 weeks to get ready for a photo shoot last year, and how I continue to do my cuts when I have maybe an event coming up, or if I have a vacation coming up that I'm getting ready for, or really anything, anything that requires me to be in my best shape possible, and gives me an ample amount of time. So 30 days is a good amount of time to really see your body change and to really make the adjustments and adhere to the nutrition guidelines and the training guidelines. So let's rock and roll with number one. The most important thing, being in a calorie deficit. So you need to make sure your daily calories are in check. Now, how do you figure out your daily calories? Well, the fastest and easiest way is to take your body weight and multiply it by 10. So I'm 200 pounds. I'm gonna take my weight, I'm gonna multiply it by 10. So that gives me 2,000 calories. So 2,000 calories is going to be my cutting calories. That's gonna be where I am at throughout the 30 days. And it's very important that you stick to this number. So the ways you're going to do that is you're gonna track calories. Now, you can do it without tracking. I have people ask me, Steven, do I have to track? Do I have to track? You don't have to track, but again, if you want the most out of this cut, you need to track your calories. We don't know what we're aiming for if we don't have a target, right? So we're not gonna know if we need to make adjustments moving forward if we don't know where our calories are at and we don't know where we started. So for example, if week 2 or 3 comes around and our weight loss stalls, we don't know what adjustments we need to make, right? So instead of just eating less, well, how much less should we be eating? Should we cut our calories by another 200 calories a day? Should we cut our calories by another 500 calories a day? We don't know because we haven't been tracking it. So this is why it's so important to track your calories. And you could do this by using the MyFitnessPal app. It makes it really, really easy. It literally takes seconds to input your food. And one other thing you're gonna wanna do is buy a food scale. A food scale is going to allow you to weigh certain foods. So for instance, like your chicken, your steaks, your meats, your fish, any type of food that you're gonna need to weigh, you're gonna wanna use a food scale. Again, accuracy and precision is key when you are tracking your calories. So 1, caloric deficit. Make sure you are in a caloric deficit. The way we do that is multiply our body weight times 10. Once we have our calories, we are going to track our calories to make sure we are adhering to that number. Number 2, training. Training is critical. However, the time that you are training and the style of your training is going to be extremely important. So when I am trying to drop the most amount of body fat in the fastest way possible, I am going to train in the morning fasted. It is not fun. It is not a favorite of most people. However, it is a very, very effective time to train. You've been sleeping, you've been resting for 8 to 10 hours. There's no food in your stomach. You wake up, your body is going to use your fat reserves as fuel. That's why a lot of people do fasted cardio. This is why a lot of bodybuilders and fitness models do fasted cardio when they're getting ready for a show, because that's when you're gonna burn the most amount of fat. Again, it's not easy, it's not always fun, but if you are willing to go and take it to the limit over the next 30 days, I would highly, highly suggest training fasted in the morning. Now, another nutrition tip that goes hand in hand with fasted training is intermittent fasting. So you have your caloric deficit, you have your weight training. You want to also implement intermittent fasting. So you could do it a few different ways. Some people will just eat one meal a day. Some people will eat 2 meals a day. Some people will have a fasted window between 12 noon and 8 p.m. so they will get all their calories in that time frame. What has worked best for me and what has allowed me to see the greatest results is eating 1 to 2 meals a day. So typically I'll train in the morning. I will break my fast around 11 a.m. or noon. I'll have a big meal, a big salad with a lot of protein, a lot of veggies, maybe some avocado. And then I'll have another meal 3 to 4 hours later. By 5 p.m., I am finished eating and I am satisfied, I'm full. So the rest of that evening, I'm gonna fast. No snacks at night, no sweets at night. I'm gonna wake up the next morning and I'm gonna train. So again, intermittent fasting is going to be key. Now, when you're intermittent fasting, you can have black coffee, you could have tea, you could have water, you could have carbonated water, anything sugar-free, anything that does not have calories or does not elicit a insulin spike in your body. So typically anything with calories is going to get your digestive process going, which is what we don't want, because again, we're fasting. The beauty about fasting is you're forcing your body to use its fat reserves as fuel. So when people first start intermittent fasting, they get really hungry. And the first 2 to 3 days are really hard because you've never fasted before. Think about it. You've been taught to eat, 6 meals a day to keep your metabolism revved up, right? Which has been proven inaccurate. It doesn't matter how many meals you're eating per day. It has no bearing on weight loss. The only thing that matters is your daily caloric intake. But again, we've been taught to eat 6 meals a day, right? And what that's doing is you're constantly digesting food. Your body is constantly having to expend energy to break down that food and use those calories. Whereas with intermittent fasting, you're only eating 2, maybe 3 times a day. So your body becomes very efficient at using those calories, right? So when you combine this with weight training, let's say fasted weight training in the morning, when it is time to eat, your body's like, well, I don't know when I'm gonna be getting another meal in. I don't know when I'm gonna be getting calories in again. So I'm gonna really have to take these calories and these macronutrients and use them efficiently. So what that means is your body is going to send those nutrients to the areas where it needs them most. And now, since you've been weight training, you've been tearing apart your muscle fibers, right? You've been ripping your muscle fibers via the process of weightlifting. That's what weightlifting does, right? We're creating micro tears and micro abrasions on the muscle fiber, and when the muscle grows back, it grows back a little thicker and a little stronger, and that's how you get muscle growth. So your body is going to utilize these calories in the most efficient and effective way because it doesn't know when it's going to eat again. It's become so used to getting constant flow of food that now when you cut back and say, you know what, we're only eating once or twice a day, your body is going to have to make the adjustment and it's going to start using these calories that much more efficiently. And that's why intermittent fasting is so powerful when it comes to not only burning fat, but building muscle. So the first few days when you're intermittent fasting, you're gonna feel hungry. It's not an easy transition, but I promise you, if you can make it through the first 2 to 3 days, your body will adjust. Your stomach is going to shrink. Again, when your stomach is shrinking, it's gonna cause a lot of hunger because it's so used to being constantly expanded with food. So when you start intermittent fasting, the first few days, your stomach is gonna start shrinking. You're gonna have hunger pains, but again, fight through it. Have your coffee, have your sugar-free drink, seltzer water, whatever it is, whatever gets you through. And after those first few days, you'll actually start to feel better. So make it through that early stage of intermittent fasting, and I promise you, things will become a lot smoother. So we have our calorie deficit, we have our weight training, we have intermittent fasting. Another thing you're gonna wanna do is calorie cycle or carb cycle. Simply put, you're gonna have carbohydrates on your training days, preferably after you've trained, when you have your first meal. And on your rest days, you're gonna cut your carbs and you're gonna include more fats in your diet. So again, when you're cutting, your body doesn't need the excess carbohydrates when you're not training, right? If you have a car and it's sitting in the driveway not moving, is it gonna require as much fuel as a car that's on the highway, right? Of course not. So why are we gonna keep our calories the same across the board? Why are we gonna keep our carbohydrates the same on a rest day as we would on a training day? It doesn't really make much sense. And again, the whole objective of these 30 days is to maximize fat burning. So we do this by cycling our carbs. So again, on your training days, you're gonna wanna have carbs after you train or when you break your fats for your first meal, along with protein, right? Your goal for protein should be 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if I'm 200 pounds, my daily protein intake should be about 200 grams of protein. If you're 150 pounds, your goal should be 150 grams of protein. So your first meal that you break your fast with is very important. Again, your body is going to utilize these nutrients very, very efficiently. So you want to give it what it needs. You want to give it good, solid food to work with. So yeah, calorie cycling is very, very beneficial in this process. When you combine all of these elements together, you are creating a fat burning machine. You're intermittent fasting, right? You're training fasted, so you're forcing your body to use your fat reserves as fuel. You're keeping carbs low on rest days, so you're keeping your insulin levels low. But you're having carbs on your training days post-workout, which is gonna spike insulin. And a lot of people think insulin is just a fat storage hormone, but it's one of the most anabolic hormones in your body. So when you have it at the right times, your body is actually going to use, it's actually gonna spike insulin and store glycogen in the muscle. So it's actually gonna make your muscles bigger and fuller. This process is called supercompensation. So when you've gone low carbs, let's say on your rest day, and you introduce carbs on a training day, your body super compensates. It's gonna pull those carbs and force all the glycogen into the muscle to repair and replenish and refill glycogen reserves. So all these tools are extremely, extremely effective and beneficial. Even on their own, they're extremely beneficial. But when you combine all of these elements together, you truly have a recipe for rapid weight loss. So make sure you're in a caloric deficit, take your body weight, multiply it by 10. That's gonna give you your calories you should be cutting on. Make sure you're training in a fasted state if you can. If you're not able to do that, if you're not able to train in the morning, it's okay. You're still gonna get amazing results, but if you are able to, try to do it. Intermittent fasting. You're gonna wanna be intermittent fasting on this program. So make sure you're having 2 to 3 larger meals per day. And when you're not eating, try to have some black coffee to keep you fuller, or tea, or non-caloric drinks. And carb cycling. Make sure you are keeping your carbs lower on non-training days or rest days, and keep your carbs higher on heavy on training days. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I enjoyed making it for you. If you enjoyed it, if you learned something, hit the subscribe button below. You could follow me on Instagram, you could follow me on Facebook. I'll include the links to the bottom underneath this video. And if you want to take my body type quiz, I'm also going to include the link below. So link is in the description. So go check it out, guys. Talk soon.